Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chronicles and Cocktails. I'm Josué, the spirited historian, and today we're going to be talking about 10 myths Puerto Ricans still believe about their own history. Yes, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. So sit back, have a cocktail. In this case, I'm having just rum, neat, and this is Don Q Gran Añejo, of course, Puerto Rican rum from down here in Ponce. And so sit back, enjoy, have fun, and learn a little. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share. All right, so every country builds its identity on stories, right? Some are carved in truth, others not so much. They are myths that we told ourselves for so long we forgot to question them. Today we're looking at 10 myths we Puerto Ricans believe about our own history. Some will surprise you, some might annoy you, but they all lead us back to the same thing, knowing ourselves a little better. Mm. And of course, since we're talking about myths in our own history, I have included in the description below all the references that I've used in this research. It's only a 10, 15, 20-minute video, but it takes almost 2 or 3 weeks to do the research, you know? And in this case, some of the books, because you see all the books behind me, but some of the books that I'm using are this one, like Margo Café from Fernando Picó, Contra la Corriente, also from Fernando Picó, and of course I'm using one of my own books, Historia en la Historia de Utuado, and from my own research. So yes, it's documented. I've done the research. So myth number 10: Puerto Rico was always poor. Think again. This one's everywhere. Puerto Rico was always poor. It's not true. In the 18th and 19th centuries, this island was a small economic powerhouse. Coffee from, of course, Utuado and Yauco sold in Europe. Tobacco from Caguas and Cayey was priced in Spain. By the mid 1800s, we had one of the Caribbean's most vibrant economies. Mm. What changed wasn't our ethic, it was the system. Tariffs, monopolies, and land consolidation under colonial powers drained the wealth outward. Poverty came later. Imported, not inherited. I mean, I'm 26% Taíno. That's about a quarter of everything I am. And that's one of the highest percentages in DNA testing. I've heard it countless times. Todos somos taíno. It's a beautiful sentiment, but incomplete. DNA and archives show our ancestry is a tricontinental mix: indigenous, African, and European. And of course, from African and European, you can't just be general about it. There are so many ethnicities in Africa and so many ethnicities in Europe, it's really hard to keep up sometimes. Add to that the immigrants, the Corsicans, the Irish, the Catalans, the Africans from Congo and Yoruba lands, and you get a Puerto Rican mosaic, right? Our strength was never in purity, it was in mixture. We're a living experiment in cultural fusion. That worked. I need a sip for this one. Mm. Okay, the jíbaro was just a poor farmer. A lot of our popular history, the one that stalked on the street, is built on ay bendito, that that feeling sorry for yourself that I don't like. The jíbaro became a symbol of rural poverty, but the original jíbaro was defiance on two legs. He lived off the land, distrusted politics, and carried a dignity that cities couldn't buy. When elites ignored him, he invented his own republic, the hills. I mean, you can say the jíbaro is a libertarian if you want to put a label on it. Later, generations turned him into folklore. You know, that baba thing and the white shirt folded in front, like the ones that went to the Choliseo with you know who, Bad Bunny, which I love. But the jíbaro was our philosopher, our Socrates with a machete. hmm This one, I was, I even repeated it because when I was doing research for my family history and for Sebastian de Morphy, it seemed like Spain abandoned Puerto Rico. Spain didn't abandon us, it bled for us. San Juan was one of the most fortified cities in the Americas. Alejandro O'Reilly, which we spoke in the past episode when talking about the history links between New Orleans and Puerto Rico, inspected its defenses in 1765 and called it the key of the Indies. The key of the Indies. For centuries, Spain poured soldiers, engineers, and silver into Puerto Rico to keep control of the Caribbean. What ended the empire wasn't neglect, it was exhaustion. By 1898, Spain had nothing left to give, and we became the last chapter of the dying crown. Matter of fact, the United States didn't even want Puerto Rico at that point in time. They wanted Cuba. But just to give that final stab to the European powers, they took Puerto Rico. Look, America is America, right? But history should be told from truth, from honesty. When American troops arrived in 1898, they didn't bring modernity, they found it. Puerto Rico already had railroads, telegraphs, public schools. Local farmers like Roman Valdoriotti de Castro and educators in Ponce had been building them from decades. You can find this at the National Archive. It's all there. The myth that progress came with the flag was propaganda. Progress was already happening. In Spanish and in pesos, cities were built 200, 300 years before the arrival of the Americans. And I'm not saying this to minimize the impact the United States have had in Puerto Rico, but the US can take all the credit. There was a vibrant culture and history in Puerto Rico by the time they got in. Puerto Ricans don't pay federal taxes. Yeah. Si Pepe. You know, we say si Pepe. That's the favorite line from mainland pundits. Puerto Ricans don't pay federal taxes. Puerto Ricans do pay federal payroll taxes, Medicare, Social Security, custom, and excise taxes, billions each year. The only exception is for income earned inside the island. Let me repeat that. The only exception is for income earned here in Puerto Rico because Congress wrote it that way. So, yes, we pay into the system, we just don't always get the same return. That's not a privilege, that's imbalance. In every imperial chart, Puerto Rico was not a margin, it was a hinge, a refueling point, military fortress, and communication hub between Europe and the New World. You can check that out on the O'Reilly report from 1765, which is in the Indies General Archive. Spanish ship could not safely reach Mexico or Cuba without passing our watchwaters. San Juan was the nerve center of the Caribbean Empire. Small, yes, but crucial. The Atlantic's lock and key. That's what we were. Ah, woo, baby. It's just, I don't know where they get it from. I mean, seriously. And this one really makes me laugh that all Puerto Ricans are left leaning. In reality, the island has one of the most ideologically diverse population in the Americas. Many Puerto Ricans are Christians believers, pro free market, and socially conservative. You can look that up in the Puerto Rico Report 2024 Pew Latino Faith Survey. Others are fiercely progressive or nationalist. That mix creates constant friction, and that friction is democracy. We don't vote by ideology, we vote by identity, faith, and trust. And that makes us more complex than any label. I mean, I did the exercise. I will probably do a video about this later. But if Puerto Rico were to become a state, we'll get to senators like every other state. And according to our population right now, we get 4 to 5 representatives in the House of Representatives, right? Depending on how you gerrymandering those congressional districts, it's probably a tie. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. And let me explain. Of course, the big cities like San Juan and the metro area with the East tends to side with left wing ideas historically. But then you have San German, the West, Utuado in the mountains, and these people go to church every Sunday and probably every Wednesday and even on Mondays and Tuesdays. They live on what they work. A lot of them are farmers, a lot of them are fishermen, a lot of them are entrepreneurs, a lot of them are moving to the island from the States and Europe. So they're looking for that Caribbean freedom. So yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but we're not completely left leaning. Our history is not too small to matter. We've made worldwide impact. But people sometimes shrug. Puerto Rico's history is too small. Tell that to Columbus, who stopped here in 1493. And yes, I can hear some of you now. Ah, Cristobal Colon, no! Okay, but it happened, and that's reality. I mean, that's when it started. Let me rephrase before you get. That's not where it started, but that's where it changed courses. Tell that to the 65th Infantry Regiment that fought in Korea. We talked about them on the episode for Veterans Day. Tell that to the engineers, the scientists, the artists, the athletes, the historians. Tell that to all of those that have made impact worldwide. I mean, read my book, Historias en la Historia de Utuado, and you'll see the kind of people we are. We've been small in territory, but listen to this, never in consequence. Okay, here's one of the biggest misunderstandings in our history books. The idea that Puerto Rico went straight from colonial submission under Spain to US of America rule in 1898. But in fact, Spain had just granted Puerto Rico autonomy, genuine internal self-government autonomy under the Carta Autonómica of 1897. The reform gave us our own parliament, the Consejo de Administración and the Consejo de Representantes. Puerto Rico had control over education, commerce, and local laws, while Spain kept foreign policy and defense. In simple terms, we govern ourselves within the empire, more or less like a state today. The state government takes care of the local government of that area, of that state, of those boundaries. But then the federal government has been delegated other powers. So we were fully part of Spain under the same flag, language, citizenship, and economy. Some people call it some kind of independence, but it wasn't. It was a Spanish version of what Britain gave Canada, or France later gave its territories, a negotiated autonomy, not separation. The ink was barely dry when the US of America invaded in 1898, dissolving the brief experiment in self-rule. So, yes, Puerto Rico did achieve autonomy, and we lost it within a year. Not through failure, but through the accident of history and the politics of empires. Again, autonomy is not independence. As a matter of fact, the Popular Democratic Party in Puerto Rico believes in autonomy. That's why they believe in the Estado Libre Asociado. It's sort of a autonomy within the United States. Yet we're not fully integrated into the political system, the economical system of the mainland US. But the Carta Autonómica, that was what was granted to Puerto Rico under Spain. We weren't independent. We were our own country. We were Spain. Spain's 1897 Carta Autonómica gave Puerto Rico real self-government. It wasn't independence, but it was autonomy. And just to put it in perspective, it is the same kind of arrangement regions like Catalonia or the Basque Country enjoy within Spain today. And just months later, the US of America invasion ended it before it could fully grow. Yeah. Myths aren't the enemy. Forgetting this. Not researching what people tell you is not responsible. The truth is that Puerto Rico has lived many lives. Colony, province, autonomous region, territory. The more we know those layers, the clearer our present becomes. So what do you think? Which one was the myth that surprised you the most? Do you agree with all this? Do you disagree, even when the references are on the description? Do your research. Actually, don't even believe me. Do your own research. Because that's how we learn. That's how we become better Puerto Ricans, better Americans, better humans, just better. There's a lot of good things coming up in the channel this month and next month. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving, we're going to talk about Christmas, we're going to talk about more interesting facts. We're going to do a lot of those episodes like that, and we're going to do some episodes about food history and cocktail history. So stay connected. Hit the bell button, that way you'll get notified when a new video comes out. Most of the videos come out on Sundays, Sunday mornings around 7 a.m. Puerto Rico Standard Time, but Sometimes we have more than one on the same Sunday, and sometimes we have one or two during the week, depending if it's a holiday or a historic day or something like that, or whatever. Give me ideas. Why don't you give me ideas? Let's talk about the things that you want to talk about. Put it in the comments, and I'll read them. I read all of them. I reply to most of them. Thank you for watching. Have a great Sunday. Have fun, and have a cocktail or two. Responsibly. Responsibly. We don't drink to get drunk. We drink to taste new flavors, okay? And to taste history. So, I'm Josué, the spirited historian, and this was Chronicles and Cocktails. Salud.